All right, my friends, in this video, we're going to start to rebuild our Instagram schema. Now, we did already build a portion of Instagram much earlier inside the course. This time around, we're going to be adding in a lot more detail to it. In this video in particular, we're just going to kind of recreate the schema that we had previously in sections 2 and 3 of this course. So we're really just going to focus on creating a table of users, comments, and posts or photos or whatever we want to call it. And then in the coming videos, we're going to start to add in a lot more detail to support a lot of new features that we might want to add inside of some kind of Instagram-like application. As we go through this entire process, I'm going to diagram out our schema design using dbdiagram.io. You do not have to use this tool if you don't want to. As I've said several times now, you can use any of these different tools. You can even go find another one online if you want to. You can even use pen and paper to diagram out your database if you want to. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to show putting together a schema design using dbdiagram.io. All right, so that's this tool right here. I'm at dbdiagram.io. Remember, we do have to write out that kind of configuration, which is kind of annoying because you got to learn all that new syntax. But at the end of the day, it's pretty quick to pick up, to be totally honest with you, pretty straightforward. I'm only using dbdiagram.io so that I can take the text right here and put it on all the following lectures so that you could easily copy and paste it if you wanted to. Okay, so again, in this video, we're just going to recreate the exact same schema that we had previously. So we're going to get started by designating a table of users, a table of posts, and a table of comments as well. Now, you might recall that in the previous videos, we did not call posts. Instead, we call it photos. This time around, we're going to call it posts for no particular reason. It just kind of more closely aligns with what Instagram calls a post. They call a post as opposed to a photo. All right, so then we're going to add in a couple of columns to all three of these tables, and then add in some foreign key columns as well to set up some different relationships. So first, I want to make sure that all these different tables have an ID. So I'm going to add in an ID serial, BK increment to each of them. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm also going to add in a created at and an updated at timestamp to each of them as well. We're going to be adding in created at and updated at into a lot of these different tables. The general reason here is so that we can figure out things like, say, when a user maybe first joined the application for created at. We might want to know when a post was created, so we can tell a user how long ago a post was made. Same thing with comments as well. We might want to tell a user how many minutes, seconds, or days ago a comment was created. In addition, we would probably want these updated at timestamps as well, because, say, for a user, we might want to tell a user that if they haven't updated their profile in maybe 6 months, maybe they should go and update their profile just to make sure it's 100% up to date. And so we can very easily track the last time a user updated their profile or their biography by putting in an updated at timestamp inside of the user table. So we're going to add in a created at that's going to be of type timestamp, and updated at that will also be timestamp. I'm going to paste this down to the other two tables as well. Okay, so that looks good. Next up, for users, we're going to say that a user is going to have a username. I'll make that a varchar, maybe maximum 30. On posts, we had previously called this photos, and remember we had a URL column, and the idea there was that the URL was going to be the path or link to where an actual photo was hosted online. We're going to do the same thing here. Just to be clear, we do not store raw photo data in general. There are some cases where you might want to, but in general, we don't store raw file data inside of our database. Instead, we'll usually store the photo somewhere else, so on some kind of storage medium designed for storing photos, such as, say, Amazon S3, and then we'll just provide a link to it inside of our database. We might store a URL for the photo, maybe make that a varchar of 200. And then finally, on comments, I want all comments to have some contents associated with them. So this is the actual text of a comment. It'll say contents, varchar, maybe a limit of 240 again. All right, so now the last thing we have to do is put together some foreign key columns. So we're going to say that a user has many comments and a post has many comments as well. That means we want to create two foreign key columns on comments. we want to make sure that these two foreign key columns are going to point at the ID of the post that the comment is for. And we're also going to point at the user who created the comment. So on comments, I'm going to put in a user ID. That's going to be an integer. And then to set up a reference inside of dbdiagram.io, we put in square brackets, ref, colon, greater than, and then users.id. I'll then do the same thing for a post as well. We'll say post ID, integer, ref, posts.id. Okay, so now at this point, if we take a look at these three little tables right here, we should see some lines drawn between them to indicate the different references or links between them. So I can see that I've got comments right here. Comments has a link to a very particular user and a link to a very particular post. Now there's one other foreign key column that we're going to create. A post is created by a very particular user. So we're going to make sure that the post table has a reference to the user who created the post. So we're going to set up on posts a foreign key column as well called user ID of type integer. And then once again, the ref users.id. And now we can see that that additional line was created right there to indicate that a post has a relationship to a very particular user from our users table. Okay, so at this point in time, we've recreated the exact same schema that we had much earlier on inside the course. So now we're going to take a pause right here. We're going to come back in the next video and start to look at a lot of different screenshots of the Instagram application. And for all these different screenshots, we're going to point out different important features we might want to include, and we're going to think about how we could design these different features. So quick pause right here. Let's get to it in the next video.